What is the most offensive thing a customer has ever said to you? A guy came up to the register and ordered a cheeseburger. You can't mess that up, right? Well, I take his money, give him his change, and a minute later his cheeseburger. A few seconds after I hand him the cheeseburger, he looks at me and goes, "You stupid inbreed piece of crap, I wanted a Big Mac." I was 16 at the time and was horrified that a grown man would shout at a freaking kid over something that was not my fault. My manager came over and ripped this guy a new one for being so stupid. When I worked in a call center doing tech support. 1. Go frick yourself. 2. So you close in a few minutes? Me. Yes, we do. How do you get home? Me. I take the train. Well, I'm going to keep you on the phone until you miss your train. They failed. Hello. Hello. Sorry, I can't hear you. Click. This guy was trying to get insurance information from his ex-wife over the phone. I was new to the pharmacy and didn't realize I could get it off of her profile. She, not realizing she's on speakerphone, said, "What kind of freaking idiots do they have working there?" Everybody in the store heard her say it. The guy saw how embarrassed I was, looked at me saying, "That's why she's my ex-wife." I worked in retail and would often get shoplifters, but we couldn't do much other than follow them around, and if we saw them put something in their purse bag pocket, offer to place that item at the cash register for them. We technically couldn't accuse them of shoplifting because if they dropped the item and no longer had it, they could sue the company for false accusations. Really messed up considering it was a Fortune 500 lingerie company. Anyhow, one day I came out from the back and walked into a situation where a frequent shoplifter was having a standoff with my boss, accused my boss of being racist, and then threw cookies at her. Yes, cookies. It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever witnessed, other than the time I caught a man shoving about 8 bottles of perfume down his pants. "Excuse me, sir. Can I offer you a shopping tote for those perfumes? I see they must be your favorite. Can I interest you in our store card?" "Yeah, I don't miss that job." There was a big line at my work and only 2 of us working, so I ended up being the only one on cash with a huge line. I was going fairly quickly and still being cheerful, so I thought I was doing fine. Then this woman about 2 customers back says, loudly, "This Ray girl shouldn't be allowed to be on till alone if she is going to be that slow." Also, she said this to her 8-year-old daughter. I feel sorry for the daughter who's going to grow up thinking this kind of behavior is acceptable and learn the hard way that it's very much not. What a dong. I used to work at Best Buy, and my first week on the job we were getting ready close up and every other cashier decided it was time to go dong off, so I'm stuck with a line of at least 6 deep. A couple walks up with a TV, PS3, several games, etc. Obviously the total was a couple thousand. Tell them the price, let's say $2,000. They proceed to sit there and try to haggle with me. Then the wife, who had to be 60, called me a crap stain on society among other things. I guess she thought I set the prices. People seem to think retail is an environment where haggling is acceptable. Gone are the days of the independent shop owners. My rule as a customer: when another customer is rude, I defend the clerk vehemently. Clerks worry about their jobs. Customer is always right and crap like that, and are therefore easy victims for bullied customers. I do not have that restriction, and am happy to say what the clerk would, if he or she could. Let's all make the world a better place. I'm going to the supermarket right now to pick fights with other customers. I worked as a customer service rep at a cell phone company in college and would hear terrible things all the time, but the worst would have to be when I heard a man literally almost beat his wife to death. She was the account owner and had not authorized him to access it. They must have been having a pretty heated argument already because he was calling in to disconnect her line. She wouldn't give authorization, so, in response, he began to beat her. It was the most awful thing I have ever heard. I could hear each time he made contact, and the sounds she made still haunt me when I think about them. I hit trace on my phone, muted, and waved my supervisor over. She and I were able to get the police to their home in a matter of minutes, but it felt like an eternity because there was nothing I could do except wait. The police finally arrive and contain him. I hear the paramedics asking her questions, but I don't hear any responses. Against my choice, I had to hang up, note the account, and move on with my shift, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. I spent the next month thinking about her, hoping that she was fine before I finally accepted the fact I would never know. But one day when I came into work, I had a letter on my desk. The letter was from her. I don't even know how to explain how relieved I felt seeing her name as the return address. She wrote about how she was in the hospital for 2 weeks from her injuries. She is happily in the process of divorce and the husband is now in jail. She had called in after getting home to try and find the girl that saved her life. I am glad we were required to note every account or my name would have been lost and I would probably still be wondering years later. I used to work at the infamous Ponderosa buffet as a line cook. Fun fact, you can actually order meals there other than buffet, please. So with these so-called meals, you get choice of side, either french fries or baked potatoes. One day we got slammed with business and completely ran out of baked potatoes and had some in the oven starting to cook. In walks the customer. He stands at an ample 6'4". He's a wide man, clad in denim and full of beefy desire in his heart. His mustache, thicker than Sam Elliott's. This is an American man made by and for his time. His lips part, and out come the words, buffet and Arabi. The host begins to speak, but is shut down. With the baked potato, we currently are all out of potato. We can offer you. The man's face turns a shade of fuchsia not even Crayola could name. His eyes bulge, his lips tighten. The air blowing in and out of his mouth creates a rippling tornado of absolute fury around him. No potatoes. No potatoes. He moves faster than anyone of his girth should and ever has since. He pokes his angry face back into the kitchen. No potatoes. What's going on at Ponderosa? No potatoes. You should be fired, he proclaimed, waving a finger at me. His family had to pull him back to the front desk, him still hollering. He accepted the sad terms we had to give him. French fries. The kitchen was on the other side of the wall from the buffet line, so I walked around to see him eating his steak. He just ate it with pure spite. I've never seen anyone mow on a buttered well-cooked steak with just pure hatred. He didn't even enjoy the buffet. He just sighed when he had to pick up the tong spoon ladle like it wasn't enough. There will always be a baked potato-shaped hole in that fat man's heart. I work at Zellers as a cashier. One day a few months back I have this lady come through my till. She sounded Russian, and so I rang her through. When she started complaining about a can of Heinz beans, I told her that the price was correct, and she argued. I remained calm and then wham, next thing I know I wake up in the first aid room. Apparently, she was so upset she had pitched the can at my head and hit me hard enough to knock me out. I have a very husky voice and one day when I was working in a petrol station this dirty old man said to me, "Ooh, that sounds sore. I have something you can suck on." I was a baby-faced 19 at the time so I told him I was 15. I've never seen anyone turn pale and run away so quickly before. Obviously he had one of those gummy bear lozenges for you, but once you told him you were 15 he realized you were far too old for them and left because he was so embarrassed of his gaffe. I worked at the paint department at Lowe's, and one time an older black couple said I was making them wait because they were black, even though they were behind 3 people I was helping. I asked them how could they possibly think that, and they said, "Your ears turned red when you talked to us. That's how we know you're racist. WTF. This is why I style my hair to cover my ears. Then no one will ever know my true thoughts." I've collected some pretty fricked up stories, but as far as offensive, I was working my store service desk when this dirty, literally dirty, old guy walks up with some opened light bulbs. He's muttering to himself for a minute or so before telling me that he wants to return them. Naturally, he has no receipt. Now, we're not supposed to do anything with opened bulbs, but I told him that he could replace them if he wanted. He told me our return policy was communism before taking the bulbs and shambling away, muttering to himself. I honestly didn't think he'd come back. About an hour later, he comes back with the bulbs and a half-dozen cans of cat food off the shelves. He scowled at me and asked if what he had was good enough. I told him that, again, all I could do was replace the bulbs. He yelled, "Well, you can keep the son of a b and stick it up your butt," and proceeded to throw all of the items at me. I've been called a lot of things and had various items thrown at me, but this is still the only time I've been told to stick stuff up my butt. He missed, by the way. Elderly man told me I should be taken out back and shot. Apparently not having a specific brand of milk is a pretty big deal. Woman walks up to my register with her 2-year-old, orders a drink. 2-year-old reaches into our tip jar and pulls out a quarter. I protest. Mother responds, "It's just a quarter. I give you people too much already anyway." Mother and daughter turn and leave. Take drink. Pour some out. Sorry, I gave you too much. My first job was as a waitress and I had a particularly surly old man one day that spent the duration of his meal insulting me, asked me to turn around for him, criticized the way I styled my hair and overall just gave me a hard time about every little thing. He left without giving me much of a tip even though I tried my best to remain polite and professional. The lady sitting at the table beside me noticed how rude he was and went out of her way to compliment me and left me a $20 tip on a $40 bill. It was probably my first real life encounter when I realized that despite the grumps in the world, there are people out there that show genuine sincerity and kindness to strangers. "No, I mean your real name," said by a customer after I told him my name is Joe. I'm Asian. Joe is my legal first name. Almost said ching chang chong to her. Was in a store and overheard a little girl asking her mom to buy some cookie dough in a tube. The mother exclaimed, "You don't want that. It'll give you cancer. Can't you smell the cancer?" She then proceeded to allow her daughter to smell the dough so she could experience the scent of cancer. Worst thing I had ever heard an adult tell a child. I can't imagine what cancer would smell like if it had a smell. Probably something like a really eggy fart. My friend and I were next in line at the concession counter of a movie theater and the customer in front of us was being an absolute prick to the young girl working behind the counter for no apparent reason, except that he was just a flaming butthole. She was so flustered and nervous that she was shaking. It was very sad to watch. So I began to comment very loudly to my friend something like, "Look at this freaking guy, picking on a teenage girl." So he looks back as if he is going to lay into me and sees two big guys staring him down. He quickly flips back around and stares at the counter. I then say something to the effect of, "You know, people like this deserve to have the freaking crap beaten out of them. I hate freaking pee." My friend made some comment in agreement with my sentiment. Mr. Butthole became visibly nervous. It was a glorious turn of events. I felt like I had made the world a little better place that night. Thank you for being there for that poor girl. When I was working at McDonald's, a guy once came in to promote the new church cafe he had opened. He went on about how they did mainly lunches and whatnot for the poor. Then he says, "I assume since you work at McDonald's you must be really poor or not all there." The girl in the drive-thru and I just stood there staring at him until his meal came up and he left. And that's how you get scabs mixed in with your ketchup. I work in a bookshop, usually in the children's department. I'm a guy. A few days ago a woman asked me where all the girls who run the department are, because I shouldn't be allowed to work in it. When I asked why, she responded, "Because you're a man. You could be a pedophile." She was a woman, and definitely a C. Sort of along the lines. I was working at Future Shop over Christmas a few years back. Mom and son come in, she's getting his present early and would like me to help her out with the best deals, games etc because she doesn't know anything about it. So I'm showing her the GBASPs, the features, the games etc. She's really nice, appreciates the help etc. The kid is about 16 or so, and every time the mom asks me a question, he gets all impatient and says, "God mom, I already told you all of this." Frick. She doesn't say anything, so I just ignore him. His attitude the entire time was so ridiculous. She's into her buying him over $200 worth of stuff, wants to know about what she's buying, and he's being a complete dong to her the entire time. Finally, after about 20 minutes of this, I said something about the service plan. She says she always gets it on things like this, and the kid says, "Which is freaking Ray," and I snapped. I said straight to his face, "Good lord kid, your mom is here buying you all this stuff and this is how you treat her? And by the way, it's not retarded. My brother is retarded and is a million times more grateful than you for every little things he gets. Grow up." He looked at me stunned. The mom looked at me like, "Wow, that was great." Kid finally musters up, "Don't buy from this B. Mom." Mom says, "Are you kidding me? I'm buying everything from her from now on." She ended up spending the $200 plus on herself. Not a customer, but a student once said that they hoped I got in a car crash on my way home, and that my family dies in a fire. I love my job. Had a guy once tell me that he hopes my brother, who had just got shipped out to Afghanistan, gets shot and dies. I beat his butt. I worked in a movie theater back in the day, and when I told a very elderly man how much his popcorn and soda cost, he immediately erupted into a verbal blitzkrieg which basically accused me of being a raging anti-Semitic. Granted, it was expensive as frick, but he was literally claiming I was making up different prices for different creeds. He even brought Palestine into it. Plus he was the perfect distance from the other customers' earshot, so when they all looked over, it probably looked like I was oppressing this poor old man. It's like, come on, man. You look like an old bag of skin. I can't even tell what you are. Besides, don't feel special. We're robbing everyone. Comma, you look like an old bag of skin. I can't even tell what you are. That is beautiful. Best retail story: when I was at Target, the girl I was working with in electronics was ringing up a snobby 30-something with her 6-ish-year-old daughter. They obviously came from money based on what they were wearing. The mom says to the daughter, "See baby, this is why you have to stay in school. You don't want to work at Target like this girl." Without hesitation, the girl I worked with, who was only 20 at the time, turned to the daughter and said, "Actually, I am working here to help pay my nursing school tuition. I work 30 hours a week and go to school on top of that. Your mom is right though. You don't want to work in retail because you have to put up with ridiculous be like your mother." Epic. I would never have the balls to say something like that, and was especially moved because I was only working at Target because my economics BA hadn't gotten me a real job in the 6 months since I received my diploma. Now I have a real job in banking. If you work in any kind of retail supermarket store, then you are a verbal punching bag for old bastards or young idiots. We get a lot of rich stay-at-home mothers come in with their babies at my job, and one of them was all like, "See, you want to go to school and do well with education, or you could end up like that man, me, over there." I was just about to stutter about my degree when some young fella walks by giving zero fricks and says, "Hey lady, not all of us can frick our way up the food chain. Maybe taking a job like this would help take that silver spoon out your mouth and give you an insight into a day's hard work." Hero. You have been visited by the hamster of joy. Comment: I like chicken to live a happy and full of joy like the joy hamster life. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.